Welcome back to the 504 Core Podcast. Today we're doing an all LSU episode. We're back again with Zack. What's been up, man?
Not too much. It's been absolutely hectic, as you've been seeing, and everybody else who follows LSU sports can see. Baseball's been on a rampage. Just wrapped up the MLB draft. Did really, really well in that area. Then LSU football is hitting the trail running right now in July. So it's always been pretty busy in the month of July when it comes to recruiting. You kind of set the table in June, and then July is kind of where fireworks go off. So they've been definitely doing that in full force right now. So we're starting to see their efforts paying off, and it started yesterday, but we'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, busy, man, busy.
You'll start off with baseball or football?
Let's do baseball.
All right, yeah, we can do baseball. Could the draft have gone any better for Jay Johnson? That's the first question I'm going to lead with.
No, I don't think it could have gone any smoother. You get back Michael Braswell, who I know a lot of people in the beginning of the season would have probably said that who cares if he goes, but now you get a key piece to your infield back. He showed a lot of improvement and development at the plate throughout the 2024 season, and you get a really key contributor back. He's a seasoned vet. You need those veterans in the locker room, and Brazi's a big returnee for this program. Jay Johnson and the rest of the staff are really excited to get him back. And then obviously Jared Jones, he kind of speaks for himself there. To get him back in the lineup is outrageous. This is a guy who hit 28 homers, batted .301 last year. He's an absolute slugger, and he's dominated during his first two seasons in Baton Rouge. He was a draft-eligible sophomore, so some teams were going to take the risk, but ultimately it seems like his asking price was a little bit higher than some teams wanted to cave in on. So he returns to Baton Rouge, and LSU gets a power hitter back in the rotation, which is key because you have a lot of consistent hitters, but you needed some power at the plate, and you got that through one or two transfers. But to get Jared Jones back in the mix is key. So it couldn't have gone any smoother, and that's your two key returners. That's not even mentioning the three players that they got to kind of like opt back in to come to Baton Rouge, and that's headlined by three of the top 15 players in the 2024 class. That's William Schmidt, the number one right-handed pitcher in the country, Cade Ehrenbide, who is the number one catcher in the country, and then Derek Curiel, who's the number 10 player in the country. So these are just monster additions to get into the mix. So yeah, LSU might have had the most perfect MLB draft of most programs in the SEC.
Did you hear what Jared Jones' number was? Did you hear any rumblings about that, or was it kind of?
No, they usually wouldn't come out and publicly say something like that. But this is a guy who is, like I said, a draft eligible sophomore. He's still got 2 years of eligibility if need be. So there were rumblings that he was going to come back no matter what. But then he went and dominated the MLB Combine and just had the highest velocity off the plate during this Combine showing. So he was absolutely dominating. But ultimately, he's back in the mix now, and LSU gets a good one.
Yeah, no, because I was like watching after like the fourth round, I was like, okay, well, he probably won't go anymore. I mean, I saw Fidel Uolo get drafted before, and I was like, okay, I think that says something. So Thatcher Hurd went a third round, dude. I mean, he barely played like most of the year, and he gets drafted in the third round of the Yankees. So I thought that was the biggest surprise out of everything.
Baseball's so weird, man. Like it's based off potential and situational stuff. And Thatcher, yes, he has a lot of things that he needs to develop, and it's all mental, in my opinion. His game's fantastic. He has just a completely impressive arsenal of pitches to work with. He shined when LSU needed him most in 2023. But the mental side of things has been something that he struggled with over the last 2 years in Baton Rouge, and we saw that in full force in 2024. So yeah, it's what you said. He didn't play most of the year, but I think it's a situation where most MLB teams were willing to take the risk when he ultimately went in the third round. So a little bit of a shocker, but at the end of the day, not to contradict myself, it does kind of make sense at the same time.
Yeah, you saw Thatcher Hurd go in the third, and then you saw Griffin Herring go, fifth or sixth round to the Yankees, same team. So I think that was the one area I think LSU probably didn't hit on out of everything. But, I mean, you got William Schmidt to come in, who's the highest rated recruit ever coming to LSU. So that's pretty crazy in and of itself. Yeah, you would love to get a left-handed pitcher back, especially Griffin Herring. I think the sky's the limit for that kid. And then you got A&M's recruit yesterday. Just when you thought Jay Johnson was done, he actually hit you with two recruits. So you want to touch on both those kids?
Well, yeah, kind of like what you were saying. To lose a left-handed pitcher in Griffin Herring was a pretty big loss. LSU went out and secured a handful of righties in the transfer portal, and there was kind of not necessarily a concern, but there was a need for left-handed pitching in the rotation. And now you go out and you go and get Texas A&M's one of their top signees. They flip him after the coaching change in College Station. So now Cooper Williams, he's a top 100 player in the country. LSU flipped him. He's a 2024 signee. So this is a guy who's coming to campus right now. This isn't a 2025 recruit. This is a guy who's coming to campus right now, and he's one of the top lefties in the country. And LSU adds him to the pitching rotation, and it's a big-time get. This is a guy who a lot of programs were pushing for. He's a guy who comes from Texas A&M ties. Like, it's a pretty big deal for him to end up opting out of that national letter of intent and coming to LSU. I was speaking to somebody, on the Texas A&M front who was absolutely shocked that he ultimately made this decision because his family is so tied into the Texas A&M, vibes. So to get him to come to LSU's big time, it was his decision. He ran with it, and Jay Johnson did it again, and he gets one of the best players in the 2024 class to campus. And kind of just harping on the 2024 class as a whole, LSU's getting 7 of the top 100 2024 players to campus. It's absolutely unheard of. 3 of them are in the top 15. So Jay Johnson and this LSU baseball staff are absolutely clicking on all cylinders. And the 2025 rosters really, really set the table for a really big season next spring into the summer, hopefully, if they get to Omaha. So big time getting Cooper Williams. And then they obviously went out and got Ethan Claus, who's a 2025 commitment, flipped him from Texas A&M, tremendous infielder, #1 player in Nevada. So it's a big time run for LSU baseball, and I don't see them slowing down anytime soon. This team is ready for fall ball, and I expect a really big 2025 year.
Do you think Klaus is like one of those kids where, like, yeah, it's a great get, but like he could turn to the draft next year if he's drafted in an appropriate range or wherever he thinks is
Look, if you're a top 50 guy in high school, there's a high chance that you get drafted. It's just a matter of what your asking price is.
Right.
And this is a kid who could have a high asking price. He could not. It's really a matter of how he does in his senior year. He dominated during his junior season. I think he batted over 400. I think it was like 401 or something crazy. So he dominated in his junior campaign, and now we get to see what he does in his senior year. But for the draft, it's too long away. If he dominates his senior year, we'll see what happens. But this is a guy that they're hoping they can get to campus. And with the new NIL and stuff happening right now, it's not unlikely that these top players come to college now because, they can get a bag while they're in college for 3 years. So we'll see what happens with Klaus, but it's a big time get for this program.
Yeah, everyone's talking about like NIL change the game. I think NIL changed baseball the most out of everything. I mean, you couldn't make money before. Now you can make money. Kids are staring at $200,000 or $300,000 signing bonuses rather than, nothing. So, yeah, it completely changed. I want to get your predictions on the batting order next year, or basically who do you think is going to start at what position? And I guess your kind of spin on the batting order.
It's tough because you have so many different options that you can work with. At first base, I'll probably just start right there. Jared Jones, I would expect him to play there. There's going to be some talk of him going to third base or catcher, but you went out and got Eddie Yamin from Dayton, who looks to be your catcher. But kind of going in order. First base, I probably expect Jared Jones. Shortstop, probably Milam is who I would think there. You could see him move around a little bit. Second base will be fun, just to see who they work with there. You could put Dickinson there. You could put a couple different guys there. And third base, you can also put Dickinson. So there's going to be kind of a fluctuation between second and third. You don't know what you're going to get there. Catcher, Yamin. Outfield's going to be fun. I probably couldn't pencil in any starters there for you right now just because fall ball is going to tell the tale. And honestly, it's way too early for me to even put a prediction together just because it's going to just be me rambling back and forth, me having one guy or another. So we'll see what happens there. But look, no matter what, you're going to have 9 guys who can get to the plate, dominate, and have some really impressive guys in the outfield as well.
So you don't think Braswell is going to start?
Yeah, see, that's a tricky one. I would probably pencil him in. You could put Milam at second base and then put Braswell at shortstop probably, and then put Dickinson at third base is probably how that would do.
That's how I was thinking. Dickinson at third, and then everyone keeps talking about how good of a hitter he is. Maybe he's your leadoff hitter. And
Dickinson's a first-round talent. This is a guy from Utah Valley who could come into the mix, dominate the SEC ranks, and then push his way to first-round status. So your infield, if we want to break it down really quickly, would be Jared Jones at first base, Milam at shortstop, Jared Jones Milam at second base, Braswell at shortstop, and then Dickinson at third base is probably what I would work with.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, just keep replacing White with Dickinson and just run it back again with the same people. And then outfield, you got Stanfield, Curiel, Brown, Larson, Pearson. So there's a lot of talent on this freaking team. And then
it's an embarrassment of riches for sure. And that's not even factoring in a couple of transfer guys who can plug and play anywhere. So it's baseball's loaded, and I don't see them slowing down anytime soon.
You think Yamin's going to start over Priester?
See, that's going to be one that's going to be a fall ball determination. Yamin really played really well this summer for his program that he was playing with over the last month. So Jay Johnson went out there and scouted him in person, is what I was told. So they like what he brings to the table, and we'll see what happens there. But you have two guys who could start at any time. It's kind of like what they did like over the last couple of years with Travinsky and Milazzo. You had two guys who plug and played right there, and then we can see if it happens again. But this team's loaded, man.
Yeah, no, they have a ton. Do you think anyone could transfer out? Just kind of just too many guys at this point. I mean, do you think anyone transferred? Do you think any of the transfers that came in could transfer out now? Just kind of how things unfolded.
No, I don't think so. I think Jay Johnson strategically placed this roster to where he has depth in a variety of areas. I don't think he has, let's say, too many people at one certain position group. He has a lot of plug and play guys in the outfield, a lot of plug and play guys in the infield. So he's got everything really organized in a strategic way. I don't see any world where a surplus or a variety of guys leave. You might see one or two, but I'd be a little surprised to see that happen. I think this roster is kind of intact and loaded for the 2025 season. And I've used that word a lot. I've used the word loaded probably 10 times in the last couple of minutes because I think we need to stress how talented this roster is. Jay Johnson and this staff went on a rampage. It's going to be really, really nice to see how they kind of improve come fall ball.
One thing one thing about LSU too, they have experience at this point. So you're returning all these guys. Like if you look at the draft, like the SEC this year, just like college baseball as a whole, like look at how many players left. Like it was a very experienced college baseball like team. All the major teams this year were very, very experienced. So I mean, Tennessee lost a lot of guys. Florida lost a lot of guys. Like Charlie Condon's leaving. Like it was kind of an older college baseball teams on the top end. So LSU is returning a lot of experience. I think as a whole, there's obviously gonna be other good teams, but I don't think they're going to be as experienced as LSU. I mean, LSU's got to be. I don't know where they're going to be in the preseason ranks, but I would assume top 10. So, yeah, I mean, if you're an LSU baseball fan, it's hard to get better than this. So, yeah, you want to go to college football recruiting?
Yeah, it's just an app. They're dominating right now. You hit me with whatever you want because we can take this in a bunch of different areas. They're absolutely killing it.
I mean, DJ Pickett's obviously the biggest one. He committed yesterday. I heard LSU offered a lot of money. I heard Oregon matched or offered even more, and then didn't come into fruition. But yeah, I know LSU paid up pretty big. They wanted him. Corey Raymond finally got his big fish. So I guess you want to touch on DJ Pickett.
Yeah, DJ Pickett is the cream of the crop. That's your big fish. That's the one that they've been pushing for since January. Corey Raymond got back on staff in January, and really, once he got back to Baton Rouge, it was full steam ahead for Pickett. That was his number one target. That was the one guy that he wanted, and he remained in touch with him over this 7-month stretch. He got him to campus 4 times unofficially, 1 time for an official visit. So he's made his way to the boot on several different occasions, and you saw Oregon swing for the fences. You saw Miami swing for the fences. You saw Georgia also get an official visit, and then 2 weeks out, he trimmed his list to 3. He had his 3 finalists, Oregon, Miami, and LSU. And look, Oregon's doing their thing in the NIL game right now. It's really impressive. Phil Knight, the Nike founder, is dropping bags right now. Dan Lanning is one of the most aggressive head coaches when it comes to the NIL front, and he's proven that going out and getting to Corian Moore. He's also in the mix for Jonah Williams. He was in the mix for DJ Pickett. And ultimately, relationships won out here. And that's a word that a lot of people laugh at because in the modern day area of recruiting, relationships don't mean jack. It's all about money. These kids want a bag now, and you saw in this one the tides kind of shifted LSU's way. They're getting their NIL stuff in order right now. You're starting to see them be able to match for other prospects. And DJ Pickett's your cream of the crop guy. So that they knew the NIL range that Pickett was asking for. Pickett has an agent. This is a guy who has people speaking for him in his corner and know what his value is. Oregon was prepared to give him an absolute bag. LSU was in the mix too. Miami was obviously a heavy hitter in the NIL space as well, but LSU won out here, and the deciding factor was Corey Raymond. He's developed several first-round picks, and now he gets the best player to commit to LSU since probably Derek Stingley, Eli Ricks. This is a guy who can come in, immediate impact, the first-round potential in the next couple of years. So big-time commitment, big-time land for Corey Raymond and them, and now you kind of got to keep your foot on the gas until the December early signing day or the early signing period. Because Oregon and Miami aren't going to go down without a fight. So Big time recruiting win for LSU, and Pickett's one of the top dogs, number one cornerback of the country, and it was a statement for LSU right there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've seen on Twitter and just anywhere else, there were rumblings about Corey Raymond not landing the big fish. So he finally got it. He definitely needed that win. I mean, they got Jhase Thomas recently too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So another in-state kid, 3-star or not, you've seen those kind of guys grow into themselves, as they go on in their career. So, Louisiana kids, always good to put a fence around the state. He did that.
Well, not to interrupt, but let me just say this about Jhase Thomas. Like, this is a late bloomer. This is a kid who on 3 just propelled him to a 4-star guy. He's a top 10 player in the state of Louisiana. Like, Jhase Thomas is a guy who has NFL lineage. His dad played for the Saints. Like, this is a kid who has the chance to really continue rising up the rankings before it's all said and done. And you see evaluators really intrigued about what he can do for his senior year because, like I said, when it's all said and done, he could rise even higher. He's in the top 250, top 300, and LSU offered him in June and really, really wanted him. They had kept tabs on him for months and months and months, and the expectation was that once he got to LSU's elite camp in June, if he had a strong showing, they were going to offer him on the spot. And Mike, he didn't have a strong showing for the whole camp. He did testing, and after his testing, LSU pulled him aside and offered him right off the bat after he ran his 40. He logged a pair of 4.4 40s and immediately just got pulled to the side and got an offer. And he didn't waste any time. He took 2 weeks, mulled things over with his camp. It was Texas Tech and Houston and LSU were 3 of the heavy hitters. And once he got the offer, LSU had him in the bag. So getting him is a huge in-state win for this program. And look, Jhase Thomas is a guy who continue to fly up the rankings. He's a safety. That's what he's listed at. But I wouldn't be surprised if he had the chance to play corner as well, just knowing the defensive backfield is so weak right now. But Jhase Thomas is a big one. DJ Pickett's a big one. And you could see another one pop in the next 48 hours if all things go accordingly.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Antoine, Jaboree Antoine. What's the latest with him? I keep hearing Miami, but then I keep hearing, once committed to LSU, decommits. Now he's Miami. Now he's LSU. LSU people think he could commit to Miami. He could still end up at LSU. So what's the latest you're hearing 48 hours?
It's a tricky one. Antoine's had one of the more roller coaster recruitments I've seen as of late, just because he kind of decommitted out of nowhere. I wasn't really expecting him to, pop in that regard last month, but he ultimately made his decision, reopened his recruitment, and he had LSU, Florida State, and Miami all in the mix, with Florida State and Miami really surging. This is a kid who has Miami ties. He plays 7-on-7 with a South Florida squad, so he has a lot of ties to the area. And now it's going to come down to LSU, Miami. Those are the 2 finalists. He announced that today. Florida State's out of the mix. So you have 2 finalists in LSU and Miami. And I really think that LSU and Corey Raymond are retying that relationship, rekindling that spark. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him ultimately commit to LSU on Saturday. He pops, on July 20th this weekend. So if you were to ask me and people that I've spoken with on the Miami and LSU side, I'd probably say that LSU wins out for his services and gets him back in the 2025 class. If he does go to Miami, it's going to be something where LSU doesn't take their foot off the gas. They're going to keep pushing till the early signing period in December. But if you were to ask me what ultimately happens, I really like LSU's chances for Antoine come Saturday, solely because Corey Raymond's on a recruiting rampage. They've got their NIL stuff back intact, and I'm excited. I really think that they have a good shot to get him on Saturday. And if I was to put my prediction in, honestly, right now, I'd probably say that LSU wins out for him.
Confidence out of 10. What do you have it at?
Probably like a 6 or 7. The next 24 hours are going to be the telling sign of what actually happens, as the 11th hour comes in. But for me, I probably think that LSU wins out here solely based off of the fact that he can come in and have an immediate impact. Like I said, on the NIL front, they're starting to get things in order with the Bayou Traditions and all these other things with TAF kind of mixing. Austin Thomas is doing a fantastic job on the NIL front. So hopefully they can get things right back with Jaboree Antoine. And even when he decommitted, man, like I heard that things were trending in the right direction. He wanted to feel the love, and I think he felt the love. And on the field and off the field, I think LSU can offer him some impressive packages. So 1 to 10, I'd probably say a 6.5 to 7 confidence that he ends up a Tiger on Saturday.
Okay, well that's pretty good. Is the reason why he decommitted was mainly NIL? Is that like the rumor, or
the rumor would probably be just along the lines of I feel like he just wanted a little bit more love, and I think he wanted to weigh out his options with the other 2 programs. Like I said, he had some Miami ties over there. He went on an official visit to Florida State. He committed to LSU in January, but his recruitment was pretty much still wide open. He was still talking to other programs, still taking visits, unofficial and official. So he was committed, but he was still checking out what other schools had in store. And he decommitted, felt out his offers, and now I'm hoping that LSU can ultimately win out here and get him back in the 2025 class because that's the number one cornerback in the state. And to lose somebody of that caliber would be a massive loss for Corey Raymond, considering the kid is from Raymond's roots down in New Iberia. So I think Corey Raymond puts his foot on the gas here and wins out, but we'll see. If you were to ask me, I think LSU wins out here, though. I'll reiterate that for the third time.
Okay, all right, that's good. I wonder if DJ Pickett will have an influence on that too. You could always sell that tandem as well. So, yeah, hopefully he'll commit. They got, let's see, last time you were on, they got Brandon Brown out of Texas, defensive tackle, defensive lineman, whatever you want to call it. You want to touch on him? I know he was a big Bo Davis guy. That was the reason he committed. Let's see. They got Brandon Brown and Damien Shanklin, 48 hours apart or 24 hours apart.
Yeah, and they also got Zion Williams. I'll hit on that trio real quick before we hit on one last guy, just because Saturday you could have the chance to see two guys pop in the class. But in early July, you saw LSU add 3 defensive linemen, which is an incredible haul for this program. You saw Damien Shanklin, who's a 4-star edge, and to get him in the mix is huge. This is a guy who is just flying up the recruiting rankings and has the chance to have a big-time senior year and go up even higher. But to me, one of the hidden gems is going to be Zion Williams. He's a Lufkin, Texas native, and he was a 3-star prospect outside of the top 300. And after his junior season, he just flew up the rankings. He's a top 10 defensive tackle now in the country, according to On3, and he's really in store for a big-time senior season. This was a guy that Bo Davis and the recruiting staff circled as a hidden gem, and they got it. They went out there and evaluated him correctly because you saw the rankings teams go out and see his ranking rise even higher. So Zion Williams is the cream of the crop. This is a guy who can come in and make an immediate impact in a defensive tackle room that does not have very much depth. Yes, you have Dominic McKinley as a youngster, but you have Gabriel Relaford on the edge as well. But if you're talking strictly on the interior, Dominic McKinley is your one sole gem, and then you're going to have to build through the youngsters because the transfer portal can only do so much. So for me, Zion Williams is the big-time fish in that class because I think he can continue to fly up those rankings and make a big-time splash.
Yeah, no, I was kind of ripping on Bo Davis a little bit last time. Everyone's like, oh, he's a great recruiter. And then all of a sudden you got 3 guys. So Kevin Peoples as well, he's supposed to be an outside linebacker, outside, defensive end coach. So he hit on these guys as well. So props to them. It seems like things are finally moving along. Who is the other guy you want to talk about?
Yeah, so Saturday is a chance to be a really big day for LSU if all things go accordingly. Obviously, we just hit on Jaboree Antoine for probably 3 to 5 minutes. But you also have another guy who's about to pop, and that's Derek Meadows, a 5-star wide receiver out of Nevada. He's the number 1 ranked player in Nevada, and LSU circled him as a big-time priority down the stretch. He visited it was a midweek visit in June, and it went really, really well for wide receivers coach Cortez Hankton and the rest of the staff. So this was one that was kind of down to 3 programs, that being LSU, Alabama, and Notre Dame. He was predicted to go to Notre Dame for a really, really long time. They were the front runners for the longest, and then he took that visit to LSU, and they really turned up the heat for him. So those are your 3 finalists. If you were to ask me right now, I'd probably take Alabama out of the mix because they just got a 5-star wide receiver in Caleb Cunningham. So I'd really put it as a battle between Notre Dame and LSU down the stretch. And LSU's a heavy hitter here. I like where LSU stands for Derek Meadows. You need that 5-star caliber receiver, and I think they ultimately went out here. He was supposed to commit last Saturday, but pushed back his commitment 1 week to this Saturday. After Notre Dame kind of put their foot on the gas and tried to make some more moves on the front. But I think LSU's in pole position to land Derek Meadows. We'll see what happens ultimately down the stretch here, but we're 48 hours out from a decision, and I think LSU's kind of the front runner here from one person that I talked to. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Recruiting's so fluid, anything can happen any second, but it's an LSU-Notre Dame battle right now, and I like where LSU stands to hopefully get Meadows into this 2025 class and potentially propel it to the number 2 class in the country. They're number 3 right now, according to On3, and I really like their chances to get to that number 1 slot. They've really positioned themselves well.
Anything new with Khalid Lockett or any of those guys?
Khalid Lockett's going to pop in August, and if you were to ask me, I think it's an LSU-Texas battle, but Texas has the edge right now. We'll see what happens there, but that's one who's been kind of mum on his recruiting process. It's been a very quiet there's really been no chatter from his camp over the last couple of weeks. But Texas is the front runner. We'll see if they can seal the deal down the stretch.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just pay attention to Twitter if you're an LSU fan, or read Zack on Sports Illustrated. So, what's the best place to find you? Just LSU Country. Just
So we actually tomorrow I'm going to be posting it, but we're launching our rebrand. LSU Country no more. We're going to be just solely going to LSU Tigers on Sports Illustrated. It's a big time rebrand. We updated the website yesterday. So we're doing a couple different things on that front right now. I'm going to be updating the socials, but LSU Country, no more. We're going to be LSU Tigers on SI on Twitter. You have me on Twitter at Znagi20, and you can find us on Google by just searching LSU Sports Illustrated. But man, we're pumping out crazy recruiting content right now. It's a busy season, and LSU's kind of dominating in all facets of the athletic department.
All right. You heard the man. All right, Zack. We'll catch you soon. Hopefully everyone commits. So
let's do it. Appreciate you.
It's pretty good.